Hello, people of the internet. Welcome back. If you're returning to TK is Outlandish, and if you're new, thanks for watching. So my name is Teresa, and that is my husband, Ryan.
Hi.
So we talk about Outlander, if that's not apparent. I am a book reader, and my husband did not read the book. So we look at it two different lenses, and my interest is the creative process of taking the 900-page book of A Breath of Snow and Ashes and how it's turned into 8 episodes of Outlander season 6. So we actually already made a video for episode 605. This is what I would call a special edition, which came about for two reasons. Number one, I had predicted that there would be a break in the season and it might be on Easter, and I checked the schedule, and yes, there is no new Outlander on April 17th, so there will be a break between episode 606, the next episode, which is I'm very excited to see, and the episode after that. And so it was mulling around in my brain what might happen in these next couple episodes, because there's only 2 episodes left after this next episode. And I was wondering what road it was going to go down. And Ryan and I were having Taco Tuesday dinner, and we were actually talking about this at dinner. And I said, well, let's make an episode about it before the episode comes out, see if I'm right about my predictions. And so we put the kids to bed, got myself a glass of wine, put on my Fraser's Ridge hoodie, and I said, let's do this.
Yeah. This was we started talking about this and it got really interesting real fast. I I'm excited to talk about this. So we had to make a little half episode here. We'll make it more brief than other episodes, but yeah, let's dive into it. So as a TV viewer, I'm really enjoying the plotline of the Christies, which this episode's gonna center around. Uh, in fact, we're gonna talk specifically about Malva.
Malva, well, I say Malva, you say Malva.
Yeah,
Malva, Malva, Malva. There's something about Malva. So,
yeah,
yeah, let's recap a little bit of who the Christies are.
yeah. Sure. So let's look at them. The Christies. Yeah, tell us about the Christies.
So the dude in the middle there is Tom Christie, the father. He was in Ardsmuir prison with Jamie back 25 years ago or so now at this point. They did not get along. He was the head of the Presbyterians, and Jamie, well, I wouldn't say he was like the head of the Catholics, but he did become kind of their leader, and they just all happened to be Catholic. And so 25 years later, Tom comes to the Ridge. He was a bond servant. His employer died, and so he comes to the Ridge to settle. He has a bunch of other settlers. They're known as the fisher folk. They were from the shores of Scotland, and they were mostly fishermen. And then we have the other gentleman is his son, Alan, which I don't know. And there hasn't been too much character development with Alan, except that I don't know. He's kind of like, eh. He's he's not a likable character to me very
Yeah,
much.
but he's
So
not going to be particularly germane to this discussion, anyways.
right, so it's Alan, it's his son. That's about all we can say about him. And then there's Malva. So Malva was well, actually, we're not too sure about Malva because Claire and Jamie were trying to figure this out. How old she was? Wasn't she born when Tom is in Ardsmuir? And when she was having a conversation with Jamie, and he said, "Oh, where were you born?" And she was kind of evasive about it, and he asked if they had the same mother, and she said yes. But yeah, the background story, the bio on Malva is a little iffy. So yeah, so we're going to specifically talk about Malva because there's a couple differences from the book in the series, and I'm wondering if they're going to go a certain way especially because there's, like I said, there's only 2 episodes left after this next episode, and there's a lot of storyline to go along, and some of the storylines in book 6 were in book 5, so I'm wondering how it's going to end. So I'm going to bring out a couple points about Malva that we know. I'm going to offer, I will say, a hypothesis. Do you think that sounds correct?
Yeah, that sounds fine. We have our evidence.
Yeah.
We have our, we have what we think is going to happen. Yeah, let's call it a hypothesis.
And I would like to get Ryan, as a TV only viewer, see how he views this. And if anyone watching there is a TV only viewer, book readers, I mean, I would like your opinion too. But this is my hypothesis is TV storyline only, not from the book. Um, so the first thing we know about Malva is when her father is getting his surgery on his hand, she's outside watching. Now, the impression that we would get, Ryan as a TV only viewer, is she's watching it because he's abusive towards her, and she's kind of enjoying seeing him in pain. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think she's a little bit curious. From a TV viewer, it seems like she is curious, yeah, about both the process of what Claire is doing, because she's shown an interest in medicine, or at least the, shall we say, gruesome parts of medicine. She really enjoys that cutting stuff. Um, and then she also probably really enjoys seeing her father, who beats her, get uh, put in a severe amount of pain.
Mm-hmm. So then we have Melva doing some peep and tom voyeurism, watching Jamie and Claire in some intimate moments. She was quite interested in that.
But
So that's not something.
you'll know she doesn't really like smile or anything like she does in the other situations where there's like blood and gore involved. She's just like looking at it almost, I don't know, inquisitively or um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like jealously. I can't really tell what that look is.
Mm-hmm. And also, well, my view of Malva was completely different. I think as a book viewer, I was like, no, from the get go, I was like, not, not, not buying into that. And then, of course, we have the third thing about Malva is we saw her cutting off the fingers of a dead body for what we found out was a love charm, and looking quite excited about it.
Oh man, that was so creepy. That was the creepiest she's been so far, by and far
Mm-hmm.
and away.
Mm-hmm. And in between that, I had forgotten about this. Do you have the when she said, "Oh, we can cut someone open"?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Now, I reviewed the book, and that is actually something that's in the book, but it's from Claire's point of view. So, from Claire's point of view, Melva says it's so importantly, as if Melva feels very important that Claire trusts her with this, that she's her apprentice. And this is the interesting part of a book versus a TV series, because obviously we can't see Melva's expression. Every reader is going to have a different image of what Melva looks, her expression when she says this. Claire's point of view is that she feels that she is important, but that look on that face is telling me she's a little psycho. And so that's one of the things that interests me in the book versus TV series. What do you think, Rye?
Well, I think you nailed it on the head with that. She is showing some serious psychopathic tendencies. Um, every episode, it just gets worse, and I'm wondering if they're going to play that angle. That's what I think. She is. She shows interest in other people's pain, specifically her father, who you know presented a lot of pain to her. She really likes cutting into things. She's interested in watching Jamie and Claire together, But again, in kind of more of a, I don't know, like I want to be in there kind of deal rather than curiosity. I don't know. But she's
Right. Well, no, but
definitely
I
creepy.
mentioned before, it's not like if it was curiosity. I mean, it's not like two strangers. She knows Jamie and Claire. Claire's like she's a Claire's apprentice. It's almost like watching like your aunt and uncle or something. You know what I mean? It's not like I could even see if it was two strangers that you weren't connected to if it was some sort of like curiosity.
Right.
Hmm.
So that we talked a little bit about Malva. Now let's talk a little bit about Malva's mom, which kind of I think gives a more credence to our theory that they're going to turn Malva psycho, literally turning her into a psychopath.
Well, Tom tells Claire that he knows Claire's not a witch because his wife was one. And we do hear, and I can't remember if he told Malva or if he told Alan, remember what happened to your mother. So something happened to her. Um, I can't remember if he specifically says in the TV show what happened to her. I know what happened to her because of the book, but I don't know if they would change that or not. So I don't want to say. Do you remember
Didn't they say? Didn't he tell Claire that in whenever he was healing from
that
her
she was?
sister, whenever she came in at night to check on him, and they talked about being a witch?
I remember he said his wife was a witch, but I can't remember if he said what happened to her specifically.
I
Oh,
see.
Jamie. This was before Claire had the conversation with Tom. Was Jamie said, I think Tom got word that his wife died while he was in Ordsmuir. I remember that, but I can't remember if he specifically said what how she died.
Okay, well let's put
However,
two and two together here. Tom himself said his wife was a witch and she died. I think it's going to be pretty safe to say that she was killed for being a witch.
mm-hmm. I think that would be a fair assumption. There was one more thing about Melba I forgot to point out is when she was trying to get it on with Obadiah Henderson, that it was her what would be considered her father's church, and I'm pretty sure that that was her suggestion.
Oh, absolutely. With that dominant personality of hers, she absolutely was the one to instigate that, and he was
Right.
happy to oblige. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. And the way she just instantly went on Roger and said and blackmailed him, that's another indication. So are you ready for my hypothesis?
Yeah, let's go.
So we're gonna find out that Melva is actually a psychopath, or at least has like psychopathic tendencies in the sense that she can't show empathy, she's manipulative. I don't even know what else there is because you have to, and I'm talking about this purely in a character in a fictional TV show. I realize that Malva is not a real person who do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to throw this out like psychopath is just
No, like she would be like a clinical psychopath.
right.
She enjoys, uh, taking pleasure in other people's pain.
Hmm. And
And
I
with her mother back then, anything a woman did was grounds for calling her a witch. It
mhm,
could be maybe she wore her hair a strange way, witch. If she had a birthmark in the wrong place, that's a witch. It's
mhm.
anything goes. So
If he turns a guy into a duck and floats.
yeah, exactly. It's yeah, anything goes. And it's all not, of course. But if her mother, psychopathic tendencies and psychopathic behavior can have a hereditary component. So if her mother was showing some psychopathic tendencies, you know, witch, call her a witch. And it's possible that maybe she was killed for being a witch. And by that I
Mhm.
mean a psychopath that everyone of that time period just called her a witch because of that. Now,
Right. And
yeah,
go
so
ahead.
and Tom, knowing his wife and knowing his daughter, well, assuming that, she is his daughter as far as we know, the timeline is a little bit, we're not entirely sure. They didn't give it to us entirely. But, if right now all of our experience with Tom leads us to believe he's like the bad guy, with a little bit of redeeming quality. He did come to Claire's defense 2 episodes ago. But really, he's just a very simple guy who wants to whip his children into good behavior, and that's about the extent of his toolkit when it comes to parenting.
In his defense, what else was there back then?
And
I mean,
that's
really.
right. I get it. I get it. We're not the enlightened people that we are now, of course. But
Right. And I'm thinking, like I had said before, what if, he said if he doesn't know how else to, he doesn't want Melva to end up like her mother. I also have a proposition that perhaps Tom didn't leave his town just because his employer died. What if Melva has done something like this before? And we know in the preview that Claire's feverish on the bed and she sees Melva and Jamie. Now in the book,
well, she
it's from,
sees something, right? She sees a shadowy haze. We all know it's Malva. It's come on.
well, the one view it is Melva, but from Claire's point of view, it's just she can't really tell. And
Right.
from in the book, we actually don't. She just sees a woman, a dark-haired woman with a man that she can't even really identify is Jamie because she's kind of hallucinatory. Is that the word I'm looking for? And
Yeah.
she's hyper, and she's not really sure. She's almost like comatose, honestly, the way that they describe it. So, yes, my hypothesis is that Malva is a certifiable, and Claire might recognize this. I mean, she's not a psychologist, but she is a doctor and a surgeon, so she might down the line in the next 2 episodes after this, in episode 607 and 608, she might recognize that Malva was an actual psychopath.
Maybe if all these things come to light for Claire. I mean, all these things that we're seeing as a viewer, Claire has no idea what's going on, except for of course, the interest in surgery, which Claire, I'm sure is like, oh yeah, great, another apprentice, you'd be fine at it. Completely clueless.
And in the book, we have no idea, since it's not taken from Mel's point of view, we have no idea she's doing these things. When all is said and done, we find out from another character that she's doing these things. But I feel like if we didn't know she was doing these things until the end, I think the TV only viewing audience would be like, it's too much of a, so there's probably a technical television term for it. I don't know. It's just too much like, it's like a soap opera move. It's like, oh, she was evil the whole time. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think that would be too much of a jump if they didn't have these indications through the season. What do you think, Rye?
absolutely. I think these are all good just setups for the big twist to come. And thinking about things, they really like to do the everyone has like a second side. There's a good side. This guy's really good, but he also has a little bit of a bad side. Frank, and Blackjack. Blackjack, horrible person, but whenever his brother dies, you see that brief moment of humanity creep out, and then he sucks it right back in, and it's gone. But it was there. With
Mm-hmm.
Frank, it's the opposite. He's a really good guy, and you can tell that in the TV show. He's holding back. He's really, really trying hard to hold back some like dark side of him, and he does so. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's a
But there's
good
that
guy.
one moment. There's that one moment
Right, exactly.
where
He has the
yeah.
moment, just like the mirror of Blackjack.
Right. And I was thinking about this, like the villains in Outlander have changed from like Blackjack was just like, oh, there was really no redeeming qualities about him. Now, now Ryan has a different view of Stephen Bonnet, but I think that it was because I didn't feel this way about him in the book, but I think the way that Edward Spears, I think was his last name, portrayed him. Like I almost wanted to be like, oh, maybe he can change. Maybe he can be that good person. And then he tried to sell Bree as a sex slave, and I'm like, well, no, I guess not.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
You have that.
there's that
They give those brief.
gone. Right.
And actually, all of these comparisons that I'm making now is not actually to Melva. It's to Tom.
Right.
So we see Tom as this kind of one-sided character. And I think what might come to light is that he's doing all these things because he loves his daughter and he's trying to protect her. He's trying to keep her from doing those psychopathic things. He's trying to keep the town safe from her. He's trying to
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to be really good, but he does so in
Mm-hmm.
ways that we as viewers interpret as cruel, and you know, just bad parenting.
Right. Because what's available in the 18th century? Either an insane asylum
Do those even
or
exist? I don't even know if those existed back then. I mean, they're just
yeah, I don't
yeah.
even know.
I don't believe so. I don't think asylum really
Or
came.
burning at the stake. So I mean, those were his choices.
Right.
So that's why um I can't write off Tom as like a completely horrible person. Especially because in light of what was available back then,
Right.
realistically. So all right, so I think that's all that we wanted to throw together.
Yeah. Let's recap real quick our predictions about Malva here and the plot in general. So we predict that Malva is going to go full blown psycho at some point, and it will cause a stir among the Ridge and the viewers, us. I'm predicting that uh, Tom does a face turn. I think we're gonna find out that he's doing all this out of a really good place in his heart. He just doesn't know any better way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's one more from your end. What was
Oh, that Melva that they had to leave wherever they were because of Melva. So she's done this before.
right?
She's done something before that indicated that she's not quite right.
Right. Okay. I like where this is going.
Player will recognize
Think
that.
this would make great TV. I think. So
I think I should be in the writers' room, honestly. And if it doesn't come to pass, I still think I would be great in the writers' room.
if this doesn't come to pass, it should have come to pass. That's what we can say.
Right. So anyone watching this, I would actually love to hear other people's opinions on this. If this would make for good TV, if this would make for good writing. It deviates a little bit from the book side of things, but that's okay. They already deviated with Myrta not dying in Culloden, and I like that change. So yeah, I would love to know other thoughts.
All right. Yeah. Great. I'm excited to see what happens. See if we're right. We'll see.
All right, so next time we see you, it'll be after 6:06, and we'll see what happens there. I think it's going to be a really good episode. All right, bye everyone. Thanks for
Good night,
watching.
everyone.